After graduating, I worked at several fine dining restaurants. And then I ended up working at Chili's. In the 90s, James, we used to do $200,000 a week. A week.
A week?
In the 90s. He goes, Mr. Marvin, the kitchen was on fire. Can I take my break? I was like, what?
No.
So I jumped and went to the kitchen, and the fryer was on fire. And then the staff, not knowing how to put off fire, they were using the wrong fire extinguisher.
Welcome back to the Chef JKP podcast. And on the show today, we have Marvin Alballi, best-selling author, global restaurant industry hospitality executive, and keynote speaker, no less. Marvin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the show. Thank you.
First things first, Chief. First or favorite ever childhood food memory?
Wow. Ice cream. Homemade ice cream. My mom used to make ice cream, which takes forever to make, but that was what she did. And, when it comes to childhood, I have a mixed feeling because my dad is also a foodie. My dad is a foodie. My mom is a foodie, but they were territorial. So when one of them was in the kitchen and the other one walked in, there was an argument. So,
Wow.
yeah. Just being candid here.
So what sort of foods would your dad like to cook?
Yeah, it's a great question because my mom was more into making sweets,
So she was
and
sweets.
desserts, and my dad was the opposite. Spicy, savory.
Oh.
Yeah, barbecue.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you have a lot of that growing up throughout your childhood?
Yeah, they loved to barbecue. They loved barbecue.
What sort of foods did they barbecue then?
Steaks, vegetables, a lot of, padron peppers.
Nice.
Eggplants, tomatoes, onions. Yeah, and I learned it early on, and I think you probably know that when you grill tomatoes and onion, there is some kind of sugar content that increases in them, so it tastes even sweeter. Yeah.
So and nowadays, do you still like to barbecue, or you leave it to the experts a little bit?
My wife loves to barbecue, and it's funny because I'll come back from work sometimes and I have only half an hour break, and she's barbecuing. I'm like, Vera, wait a minute, this is gonna take an hour.
And are you territorial in the kitchen, or she's the the exec chef?
She's the boss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So then, growing up through your adolescence, what were the types of food that you were into yourself?
Pancakes, anything that's home cooked, a pie, a paella, something in a ragu, anything that took time to cook, any smoked chicken or beef.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
okay.
I think food quality and food flavor develops in a certain way when it's cooked over a slow period with love and care.
That's absolutely true, actually.
Yeah.
So you're into sort of more very comfort
Yes.
type foods, right?
Yes.
Good.
But occasionally, because I worked 18 years of my life in the franchise world, so I love to have a burger or chicken tenders or junk food, if you call it.
Yes, but nowadays junk food can also be seen as a luxury, as in with the ingredients that
Yes.
you have, right?
True.
Because it's developed so much.
True. You could pay in Dubai about 100 dirhams for a chicken sandwich in Shake Shack, right, with fries and a drink. And you could also pay 50 somewhere else for
Yes.
a lower quality product. You're absolutely right.
So because it's quite interesting as to how that world's developed. Right?
Yeah, but it's the sourcing, is the buttermilk batter. It's the quality of the ingredient, right? Yeah.
So then after high school, in education-wise, what did you decide to study? Did you go straight into hospitality, or was it more business-led?
No, so a friend of mine, so let me tell you a quick story. So at the time, we're talking in the 90s here, there were no lyrics available on the internet. And I loved the song by Lionel Richie, Hello, the song Hello. And I wanted to get the lyrics. So a friend of mine goes, at this five-star hotel, there is a singer, he's got the lyrics. So, okay, let's go. So we go there. He gave us the lyrics. And then the Metro D says, hey, guys, I'm short on 2 people. Can you just polish cutleries and, clear some plates? That's all I need and I'll pay you.
How old were you?
I was like 17.
Okay.
So, okay, let's do it.
Nice.
Yeah, but then the amount of, this guy lied to us because the amount of forks and knives were like enough for an army. So I was I was cleaning cutleries all night, but I liked it. And I looked through the window and it was a restaurant, a revolving restaurant, golden plated stuff and a lot of luxury and dignitaries. So I said, this is the world I want to be in. I want to belong.
Oh.
I want to do this.
So that was the spark.
That was the spark.
Right.
That was the spark.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I went to a hotel school. My family sent me to a hotel school in Europe, and it started from there.
So now I want to talk to you about the hotel school. How long were you there for, first of all?
3.5 years.
Oh, wow. So it was a serious stint.
Yes.
Talk me through the syllabus. What did you have to do throughout that time?
Yeah. Everything. So it's a hotel school. So we did culinary, service, housekeeping, front desk, management, marketing. We even had courses on economics, psychological pricing. It was wonderful. And it was all done by the American Hotel and Motel Association out of Michigan.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you must have learned a huge deal throughout that time. I mean, that's a massive amount of information to take in.
Sure. And what's interesting, so when I started my career, James, I still have the books till now. Wherever I travel, I take with me all my books from university. So one of them was about culinary. And what we learned was about Escoffier and Chef Karim, Antoine Karim, so back, so far in the history, right? And the classic cuisine. But after graduating, I worked at several fine dining restaurants. And then I ended up working at Chili's, which is totally different operating model, different culinary experience, a franchise world, right? Versus what I learned at school, which was classic cuisine, classic sauces, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Because I was going to say, you're coming from that sort of hardcore hotel school, and then that big change into Chili's. I just wanted to ask you, back then in your experience, we know what Chili's is all about, but for you, what did that lay down in terms of groundwork for your future career? Because all the SOPs, everything had to be in its place. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do to actually run a monstrous franchise model. So can you run me through that?
That's a great question, James. Chili's in the 90s was and still is part of Brinker International. Brinker International, a Dallas-based company, is a Fortune 500 company.
Right.
In the 90s, James, we used to do $200,000 a week. A week.
A week?
In the 90s. 45 minutes waiting time.
That's crazy.
65 menu items. If Chili's taught me something, and I'm very thankful to Kim Nunley and Kathy Murphy and Don Reagan, because they inspired me, and Chef Brian Cloje, who later became the executive chef of Chick-fil-A. What they taught me, how to achieve consistency with 65 menu items. 1. 2, how do you train a food server within 1 week, who never ever worked in the restaurant business? Chili's is in the 90s was an incredible model. It was a well-oiled machine. It was incredible. It set my career for success for the rest of my career because I took what I learned at Chili's, James, and I implemented that later on at Applebee's, at Fuddruckers, in the hotel industry. What I achieved with the Intercontinental Hotel Group in terms of the highest TripAdvisor rating, the highest breakfast satisfaction rating since inception of the brand, increasing social media followers from 65,000 to 500,000, consistency, quality was all. I'm thankful to Chili's and Burger King, which in the hotel industry, they look down at those concepts because they're more from luxury. Say, oh, what is this guy coming from Burger King and Chili's to teach me? Chili's and Burger King and Applebee's teach you consistency, commercial commercial aspect of running the business, simplicity, unbelievable. How did they simplify things? It was unbelievable. So,
I mean, I'm trying to get my head around it, Marvin, because it's quite a. I mean, if I sort of strip back the food and that sort of thing, throughout your time in Chili's and these other brands, what would you say was the? I mean, because I think the SOPs and the consistency was laid out, so the foundation was absolutely there. What would you say was the biggest challenge amongst you running these huge teams?
like with Burger King, I led. I was based in Miami, and I led all of Western Canada, 66 restaurants. But they didn't report to me. That's 22 franchise owners.
Right.
So my job as a corporate person, as a corporate employee, was to go support the owners, provide the know-how, analyze the P&L, and it was very commercial. But there was also, quality part of it. So when you'd go every 3 months to a restaurant and conduct 360 evaluation. So that would be food, service, marketing, P&L. It was incredible because you're a coach in that role, right? And then sometimes you meet a franchise owner who's got 11 restaurants doing extremely well. He's got no problem with reinvesting money in the business. And then sometimes you see an immigrant who came to Canada and opened only one restaurant, and you tell him, hey, listen, next week you got to buy digital menu boards because that's what the head office is doing. And he's like, he looks at you as kind of want to kick you out of the store because he's got no money. So it was an interesting experience.
That must have been quite amazing also from a man management perspective,
Yeah.
just to sort of also culturally, it must have opened your eyes a lot.
For sure. And driving in Canada to places where I've never been before, like Moose Jaw and Fort McMurray, where the temperature can go as low as -20 and -30. And my car,
Also coming from Miami, where it's quite nice.
in Vancouver, rains. In Vancouver, it rains a lot, so
Right.
there's not much snow. So I still remember in Edmonton, for whatever reason, my car was skidding in every single direction you can think of. And so you can tell this guy's a tourist or a visitor because he doesn't know how to drive in the snow.
Wow.
So it was a cultural experience. It was a business experience. But I'm extremely thankful for these experiences.
And the other thing I wanted to ask you, because I'm really interested in this, is in other continents, service and hospitality, rather a lot more than this region. You can tell me if I'm wrong. In other territories such as Canada and North America, service is a huge deal. And what I mean by that is that I found when I was across, and it didn't matter whether it was a Burger King or a high-end fine dining, they are extremely engaging with the customer, even in the bars.
Yeah.
Where does that culture come from?
Yeah, and I wrote about this in my book. In the Middle East or internationally, food matters more. In North America, service matters more. It's interesting. You don't get a lot of service in fast food restaurants, like at a Burger King or a Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. You really don't. It's not based that way.
Right.
But at a Chili's or an Applebee's or an Outback Steakhouse, you do. And it matters. And you're lucky if you get a great food server. And you do get great people with great personalities who make the experience even better.
Right.
But you also get a lot of people with negative attitude.
Oh.
So if you get great service, that's a good day. So yeah, service matters because also in North America, as you know, James, a food server would handle 6 to 8 tables. So
and they're doing everything.
They're doing everything. So if you get great service, that's awesome.
Because it's, I mean, especially if we move across to here, a waiter is only just doing one job really.
3 to 4 tables, and it got bussers and runners.
Right.
It's got an army behind him. Yeah.
Whereas, as you said, quite rightly said, in other parts of the world, this waiter is running the drinks, doing the coffee, running the desserts. I mean, even plating desserts at times.
Yes.
You know, so I just found it quite interesting that it's very different.
Right. But what I enjoy when I go back to North America or even to Europe, I enjoy interacting with food servers who has great personalities.
Right.
Because they make that experience a lot better versus a transactional, someone service where somewhat a boring and transactional service where you get somewhere else.
So then, after North America and Canada, how did the journey come about for you to be within the Middle East and have this incredible time with IHG and rather a senior role? How did that come about?
LinkedIn. So I was on LinkedIn. A recruiter found me and he said, we have this opportunity. So Intercontinental Group is looking for someone who's not from the hotel business. For a reason, because they believed that if you come from the franchise world or independent restaurants, you have more commercial skills, right?
Right.
Because in the hotel business, F&B directors tend to focus more on quality. They have great knowledge when it comes to champagne and you serve from the right or from the left and the luxury. They have that knowledge. But what I found, having consulted for many hotel companies besides IHG, in the hotel business, F&B directors lack a huge amount of commercial drive or knowledge. So Intercontinental said, listen, we're looking for someone like you with a commercial background. Would you like to come and join us in Dubai? So it was a no-brainer. I took the job, moved the family.
Right.
My son was 13 years old at the time. It was difficult to do that.
It's a big move.
It's a big move. But it was a great move because suddenly I'm working with Jason Atherton and Pierre Gagnier and overseeing the opening of Gaston Acurio in Intercontinental Doha. And later on, they added Europe and Japan to my portfolio. So we had Gordon Ramsay in France. So I'm very, very fortunate because I learned there are very few people, James, who work. If you work at Burger King and McDonald's, chances are you're going to continue and work for Hardee's or you're going to work for Chick-fil-A and you're going to continue there. And if you worked in a hotel, chances are you're going to continue working in the hotel business. I happen to have worked in all the categories, and that helped me write a best-selling book because I look at it from a different perspective. So, because I opened 9 Caribou Coffee, 7 Marble Slab Creameries. So with Caribou Coffee, I learned the coffee business. With Marble Slab Creamery, I learned the ice cream business. With Chili's and Applebee's, the fajitas, the nachos, this kind of food. With Burger King, fast food, expansion, scale. Then you go to the hotel business, and you've got ethnic restaurants and fine dining and Michelin star, and you learn the finesse and the innovation and quality. So I'm extremely fortunate.
So tell me about your first week's induction in the company, because you have your extensive background, but now you have to learn anything and everything to do with IHG. So how was that?
First of all, I had to lose the khaki pants and the, and the t-shirt and wear a suit and tie.
Right.
And a pocket square.
Right.
And in the beginning, many people did not take me seriously because who's this guy who's coming from Burger King and Chili's? Because here's an interesting fact, James. Many executives in the industry don't know the difference between Chili's or Burger King. I actually spoke to one VP about a year ago, and that person didn't know the difference. So I'm gonna, for our readers, for our listeners, I want to break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So you've got the QSR, fast food, Burger King, McDonald's. Then you've got fast casual, Five Guys, Shake Shack, Chipotle. Then you've got casual dining, Chili's, Applebee's. Then you've got premium casual. Then you've got fine dining, and then you've got Michelin star. A lot of people mix up between fast casual and fast food.
Right.
People say, oh, yeah, Five Guys, fast food restaurant. It's not a fast food restaurant. If you're getting a burger in 12 minutes, that's not fast food.
Right.
And it's a gourmet burger or a higher priced burger. So a lot of people don't know the difference. So I was perceived as a fast food guy because I worked for Chili's, which is not fast food whatsoever.
So, because also that must have been quite tricky. You've got, as you said, you've got these VP, these execs, they've been in the business or in the region for a long time, and then you're coming in, they must have felt a bit like,
Yeah. I mean, I heard it in meetings. I was like, oh yeah, they hired a fast food guy. There are nasty people in this world, and so I did hear it, but I proved them wrong because I delivered 39% gross operating profit for that company.
Wow, that's
That
huge.
was the highest ever we achieved.
So what was your strategy then in the beginning you had the induction, you met all of these weird and wonderful people. What was the initial brief for you to come over, and was it to elevate the service, the hospitality? Was it more about the numbers?
I had 4 KPIs. Revenue growth. In the hotel business, to use the term revenue. In the restaurant business, we say sales, right? Sales growth, profitability, guest experience, and quality. These 4. So I had to work with about 300 chefs, executive chefs, right, to make sure we have great quality. So I created a WhatsApp group of 200, similar to yours,
Wow.
to yours, 250 chefs, right? And then here's an interesting project that I created. I'm very proud of. So post-COVID, James, the company focused on cleanliness score and breakfast satisfaction score for all the hotels worldwide. So I developed a manual for about 250 items that tells you, it's called quality identifiers. So let's say croissant. Croissant shouldn't be burnt underneath, should have lamination on top, should be soft in the middle. And so I worked with about 9 chefs, and we created an SOP, not an SOP, quality identifier description, what great looks like for every single item. And then I rolled it out in all the hotels.
Wow.
And then we achieved the highest satisfaction ratings ever. It was several initiatives on service. You remember at that time, social distancing and all of that. But also I wanted to improve quality. So these are kind of projects that I worked on. And then I did something really even more cool. So I did a program called Chef Exchange Program. So what's a Chef Exchange Program? So if we are doing an Indian night in Dubai, I would fly a chef from India, from the Intercontinental Hotel, who's well known, to Dubai to launch that 3-night of Indian food. You know what I mean? Like kind of theme night.
Yes.
So I started pushing the hotels to send chefs from one hotel to another. So what that created excitement for both chefs, learning, great for marketing, great for the market, because suddenly people are talking about us. And then I created something even more exciting called shock advertising.
Okay, tell me about that.
Alrighty. So we did this at the Intercontinental Festival City. So he said, book a table with us and get a chance to win a meal for 4, catered to you in the middle of the ocean on a private boat by our executive chef. So I wanted to change the traditional marketing. I wanted to change the thinking and do something completely out of the box. Because James, with traditional marketing, you ain't gonna get nowhere. If you want results, you really have to think outside the box. It has to be very
Especially
creative.
here, because there's so much competition,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
So you must have seen so many different concepts, overseen so many hotels, general managers dealing with potentially shareholders. So after all of that, what I wanted to also discuss with you, of course, you've got this amazing book, but the question that I'm asking you, and many of the industry's best are also, they know that you're coming on, so they're asking me to ask you. For you, can you define for me the massive difference between service and hospitality?
Sure. Danny Meyer talked about this, and I have a different approach to the explanation. Service for me is a function. You pick up 2 dishes from the pickup window, you bring it to the table. It's a function, right? You bring forks and knives, you refill wine, you refill water. It's a function. Hospitality is a feeling. I remember your name, your favorite table. I ask about you and your family. I make you feel welcome. So in all my training and all the work that I do, I never talk about service alone. I always say service and hospitality, service and hospitality, service and hospitality, until this becomes part of the DNA of any company that I work for, because you can't separate both of them. You can't separate both. You can't. And people do that. People separate service from hospitality. You shouldn't, actually.
So, for example, then, a service could be as easy as in a bank doing a transaction, because that's it, right? Like a cashier, for example. But hospitality essentially is really making somebody feel welcome, like they're coming to your house and you're giving them a big hug,
Yeah,
essentially,
yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah, totally. But we teach a lot in the industry, in hotels, in independent restaurants, in the franchise world. We spend a ton of time teaching service, but very little time teaching hospitality.
It's a really good point.
Yeah,
That's a really good point. Because you're right, everyone's doing the service, the transactional thing, but they're not really doing the how are you today or welcome back,
yeah,
great to see you again, I'll get you your favorite drink.
yeah. How's your daughter? How's your
Right,
family? I'm
right.
happy to see you again. You don't see that.
Because I was talking to, again, many chefs and many CEOs and hospitality professionals, and the thing that I learned very early on is that it doesn't matter whether the food is good or bad, right? The only reason you really want to come back to a place is because of that person who's made you feel so welcome and they've had a rapport with you. And you just think, you know what? I want to go there just to see this guy or girl or whatever. And because they've made you feel so amazing. This is absolute key. But throughout any of the talks that I've seen or heard, you are absolutely right. And you've touched upon a huge point, which is nobody really teaches you hospitality. Why is that?
I don't know the answer to that, but I want to go back to your point about food. You said that some people will come back because of service, even if the food is not great. Not all the time. Sometimes people will not forgive you for bad food. So I think, as I wrote in the book, the success formula is really great food, great service, great training, great atmosphere. These four, right? And you cannot discount any of them, and you cannot take out of that formula any of those pieces. You got to have them all together at the same time.
But it's also not easy to get correct.
No, but many people have demonstrated that they got it correct. You know them. Mythos, Spitfire, Orfali Brothers, Zuma, right? They get good food, good service, good atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I wish there could be more, especially when it comes to not just within the restaurant industry itself, but also within colleges in the region, to talk about that hospitality piece, because I just think we're missing a trick.
Oh yeah, don't let me get started on the hotel schools, James.
Please.
Because hotel schools, I teach you the wrong upselling. In our industry, there are about 4 or 5, even more, principles that are taught incorrectly. Upselling is one of them. Hostess procedures are another. Pre-shift briefing is a third. Even certain recipes. We have a problem because you get people who graduate from hotel schools that can make a Caesar salad. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Table side. Yeah.
Yeah.
How, in your opinion, how do we tackle that?
We gotta move away from the theory, and learn from the best operators. I think it's the hotel school's job is to go to the best operator and say, hey, listen, how do you do it? Show me, please. So to have the humility to go to successful restaurants and say, show me how. Because it's not about carrying 5 dishes or 5. When I started in the hotel school, we were showing off to each other as students how many glasses of wine you can carry.
Right.
Remember ashtray times, how many ashtrays. It's not about that. It's absolutely not about that. When I hire people in the restaurant business, I never ask any skill-based questions, especially for a front of the house.
What do you ask?
I ask personality-based questions. Tell me what your friends like and dislike about you. Are you a morning person or an evening person? In your last performance review, what they said you need to improve. If I called your manager, what would he tell me about you? I want to figure you out. I want to figure out your personality, because I need on my team optimistic, cheerful people who are team players. I can teach you that red wine goes with meat and how to open a bottle of wine. That's not nuclear science.
So those questions I think are amazing. But my rebuttal to you would be, is those questions that you pose, are they for line staff or are they more for general managers, or is it across the board?
Food server, hostess.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to management, then you got to ask P&L, inventory, scheduling, team motivation. It's different.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So from your line of work now, you do a lot of incredible consulting globally. What's the most common thing at the moment that operators are getting wrong when it comes to hospitality, service, and perhaps numbers?
Yeah. Relying a lot on marketing. Many operators complicate their own lives with big menus, complex menu items that where consistency suffer. So they create dishes, they put them on Instagram, but then you go after a week and the food doesn't taste the same, doesn't look the same. Obsessed with social media, obsession with presentation over taste, which is a big mistake. Single operators, lack of strategy.
What does that mean?
So a strategy in the restaurant business should have, in my opinion, the following fundamentals. People development should be part of your strategy. Succession planning should be part of your strategy. Creating menu items that are trendy, simple, yet elegant at the same time. Staying relevant. Expansion. Reputation management. Right? So, and of course, from a commercial standpoint, profitability, revenue, and all of that. But what I see with small operators, it's all about the next menu rollout.
Okay.
And there is no strategy.
But in a market such as what we have here in the UAE, and you're a well-traveled guy, how do you stand above the rest when it comes to all of those points that you quite rightly just said?
I'm going to refer back to the book because our business is a business of 1,000 details. And you should be not running a restaurant, you should be building a brand. And you need to focus on several key parts at the same time. So for you to outperform the competition, I think that's the question.
Absolutely.
You have to be laser focused. Let's break it down. Food quality, consistency, innovation, temperature, service, hospitality, pace of service, menu knowledge, training, inspired team, innovation and creativity overall in terms of service and food. Yeah, and of course, every few years you got to remodel. The store has to look fresh all the time. Marketing, not to be obsessed with Instagram and Facebook, but to be obsessed, where can word of mouth work for me? So think about marketing, more of a reputation building exercise, and being active in the community, and building that image that at one point you don't need to spend a penny on marketing because people will come anyway. So that's how you outperform.
Yeah.
You gotta have that. You gotta be laser focused on quality and people development because it's a business of people. We are in the business of people serving food. I'll repeat that. We are in the business of people serving food.
I think that's what often a lot of operators or owners or managers forget is about the people piece and the service hospitality part. They're just focused on the marketing and all that. But if you get the basic fundamentals right, it's like building a house. No, you have to have everything in place first, the base.
I was talking to a famous operator here with about 7 restaurants and expanding really fast. An amazing group. And I told them, fast expansion can hurt you because you lose focus on the details, on guest experience. Right. And throughout my career, every company that I worked for that expanded fast lost on guest experience and reputation. You have to be very careful.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
So I was telling them, you need the DNA. You need to create that DNA. You need to create training teams, trainers, people who safeguard and protect the brand, people who don't allow shortcuts, people who, if they see a salad missing an ingredient, they'll push it back to the kitchen. If they see a food server with poor greeting, they'll address it. You need to create ambassadors throughout the company. That's what will make you up from the competition.
So, Marvin, for those people who have not had the chance or haven't bought the book, why was it important to write the book? And tell me all about it, please.
Do you have time?
Absolutely.
There are several reasons for writing this book. The first one, as I said on top of this conversation, in the beginning of this conversation, it's the experience and the exposure that I had for every single category of the industry. Formula One, catering, ice cream, coffee, casual dining, fast food, Michelin star. And I said, I developed a different way of thinking. I wanted to share it with the world. The second reason, and I saw this happening a lot in North America, a lot of people immigrate to North America and they put all their life saving into opening a restaurant. For it to fail 2 to 3 years later. So it's basically a destruction of their livelihood, right? And I thought there has to be a better way. Someone needs to write about this. Someone needs to talk about this.
That's an amazing thing to do.
Yeah. And some people told me, you're crazy. You shared everything you know in this book. There are many consultants now that are using your book. There are many people in the business who are taking it. I say, I don't care. People can copy all they want to copy. That wasn't the purpose of writing the book. I had another goal in mind.
So how long was the actual writing process from the time you thought, do you know what? I'm going to write a book.
Wow.
To the time it got published.
3.5 years, 2 editors, 1 graphic designer, 1 photographer, 28 people reviewed the book. Yeah, I'm perfectionist sometimes. My wife says that all the time.
In the kitchen, barbecuing, yeah.
So I'll tell you. So, for example, if you take the marketing chapter, it was reviewed by Jeff Slutsky, Lucy Tadish, and Catherine Quick, former White Spot Restaurants Canada. So what I did, I wanted to write the best book that was ever written on the business. That was my goal. I set the bar so high that it took me 3.5 years. So in the kitchen chapter, about 7 or 8 chefs gave me feedback on it. But I wrote everything, but I made sure in the finance is the same thing. With the design, Bina Pollock, she designed more than 35 brands in North America. Terry Chu ran 300 restaurant company from a construction and design standpoint. Brian Tappan, former Cheesecake Factory, Applebee's, great friend of mine. So I say, listen, this is the design chapter. What do you think? Few people slapped me around and came back, add this, and minus this and that. But then it came up to be such a, I'm not saying it because it's my book.
No.
You can see that on Amazon reviews.
It's #1 bestseller.
For 8 months. So people are saying, you know what? Many owners said, I wish I had this book before I opened my restaurant. Because in the design chapter, you will avoid mistakes that will cost you thousands of dollars.
But I mean,
as an example.
Yeah, it's a huge amount to sort of pour into this book.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. People can copy all they want, but there's only one of you, right? But I wanted to sort of ask you at the same time, even with the book, do you have plans to write another one in the future?
Yes, sir. So the first book was a how-to book. My second book, which I'm writing now, is more of an inspirational storytelling book. And I found people connect. Sometimes people get bored with, like, for example, in the kitchen chapter of the book, I talk about a system called the line check. The line check is a system that helps you with consistency. Some people are bored when they read that, especially if they're from front of the house. So I'm going to write another book where it talks about the challenges in the industry, success stories, people whom I worked with and inspired me. I want something more inspirational.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
So then, again, when you're coming into a space, so let's say theoretically, I have 10 different concepts under one restaurant group, but I'm struggling and I want you to come and have a look. And if people have never worked with you before and they've seen your profile, they've read the book, but they actually physically want you to be involved, take me through that process, please.
Yeah. So first thing first, I do my homework. So I try to understand as much as I can what customers, sorry, I apologize for the word customer, what guests think of. In my book, I am against the word customer in the business.
Everybody is a guest.
Okay. So say, what guests think of your restaurant? Why are they coming back more often? What's your positioning? And then meet with the food servers and managers and gather as much information as I can before I provide share any advice, right? So that's how the process starts. And then normally I find problems with consistency or marketing or positioning. There's a lot of restaurant positioning mistakes.
What does that mean? Take me through the positioning part, please.
So you're a casual dining restaurant, but you position yourself as a fine dining restaurant from the way the staff behave, from the SOPs you created, from the uniform.
Is that quite common?
Yeah, especially in the hotel industry.
Right.
So they reposition often, and that's a mistake actually, because the more you reposition, the more you confuse consumers. So let's say you're running a bar that is American, that's positioned as an American bar, and then a new general manager comes to the hotel and takes over as a new GM. And he goes, I want to improve performance. Let's reposition this outlet. Let's make a European bar. Now, when you reposition, you delete menu items. And let's say my favorite item was the mushroom Swiss burger, and you took it away. As a customer, as a guest, you took away my most favorite item from the menu, so you lost me.
Right.
And then all the money that you spent over the last 10 years telling everybody I'm an American bar is all gone to the garbage, because now you're telling everybody we're a European bar. So, and here's the reason I bring this up, because there are many corporate office F&B directors who will go and tell hotel operators, your revenue is declining, please go ahead and reposition the outlet. That's the worst advice you can give anyone.
Wow.
But that's what...
You're talking my language, Marvin, because I used to be an exec corporate chef. And this used to happen all the time.
Yeah.
And so then if we just stay on the positioning piece for a little bit, instead of repositioning the restaurant to something else, what are the key things that you should focus on in order to get everybody back on track?
Yeah, so you do the analysis. So if the analysis is telling you the team needs more training, the experience, we're not wowing guests. And I have another formula I'd like to share with you. Average experience equals average sales. Good experience equals good sales. Wow experience equals wow sales.
But it sounds so simple, Marvin. Why
Yes.
isn't everybody doing it?
That's it. Why aren't we going to the guests and wowing them? Do you have SOPs? Are the employees empowered to wow the guests? It doesn't exist. Very few do that. I mean, the restaurants that are successful are doing that. They really wow you. But the ones that are struggling, they're missing this piece completely. Wow. So this is one piece, right?
Yes.
Let's go to food. Oh, food. I have stories, James. I can write a third book.
Maybe you should.
Yeah.
Maybe you should.
A menu that's full of flowers and steam and smoke gun and presentation, but doesn't taste good. A restaurant owner who wants to cater to everyone, but it doesn't work that way. He wants to, what if vegetarian people didn't come to my restaurant? What if Asians didn't come to my restaurant? What if I want to have Asian food and vegetarian food and meat? You can't do that. You have to focus on what you are and go with it. If you think of Five Guys, it's only one item. It's a burger. If you think of Chipotle, it's only one item. It's a burrito.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So this is the biggest mistake I see, right? You can't satisfy everybody. You can't confuse everybody. And then, of course, complex menu, consistency is a huge problem. Procurement is another. If we continue with the kitchen, lack of skill. I actually, James, Actually, James, I find that there is more training in front of the house. There's 70% more training in front of the house than back of the house. I don't know why chefs don't train other chefs.
In what way do you mean?
Yeah, so for example, in front of the house, every day, all the food servers will gather and will say, okay, here's a menu item. This is how you sell it. This is how you describe it. This is how it tastes. Let me show you how to handle a guest complaint. This is how you process a credit card. In back of the house, I rarely saw a chef telling someone, hey, come here. I'm going to show you how to grill a great steak.
Oh.
Or guys, let's talk about making great mashed potatoes. How do we make it? I want everybody here. I want the baker, I want the grill guy, I want the fry guy, I want everybody, but I want to talk about this item. It doesn't happen.
So essentially, it could just be like as simple as a briefing.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen. The
Really?
briefing in back of the house. Today we have 70 bookings. We're out of tomatoes and the grill is broken. Have a great day, everyone. I'm not exaggerating.
No.
I'm talking real life. 25 years in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then you wonder why Applebee's and Chili's, and I'm talking about Applebee's, Chili's, United States, with all due respect
Sure.
to the region. Why are they successful? Are they consistent? Because this kind of shift briefing I mentioned to you earlier, where you take one menu item and you focus on it, that's what you do in back of the house or heart of the house.
Right.
Yeah, so that's another. So we talked about service, we talked about food, marketing all over the place. We always find people spend a ton of money
And
on
huge.
influencers who charge you a lot of money and come to your restaurant and order everything on the menu, and you see no revenue increase, no increase in revenue.
Right.
I am a big fan of LSM, local store marketing, bounce back cards, growing your database, going to the neighborhood, going to schools and embassies. My approach to marketing is entirely different. So that's what I see. And of course, as we mentioned, a vision and a mission for the brand.
I mean, there's a lot to digest there, but I think it's amazing. But during that time, I was just also wanting to ask you. I can imagine also, and I need your sort of wisdom on this. You have the general manager or the maitre d' of the restaurant. You have the executive chef, F&B director, plus the team. Everybody is in sync. What happens when the owner or the asset manager comes in and starts saying, no, I think we should do this, I think we should do that? There's advice going on, listen, we don't believe it's going to work, but they are overpowering. How do you manage those particular individuals?
Yeah, you don't face this problem with independent and franchise restaurants, right? This question is related to hotel restaurants. And that's why hotel restaurants struggle a lot, because there are 700 pilots for this one plane.
Right. Yes.
The F&B director, the chef, the owner, the asset manager, the owner, the general manager, the head of marketing has an opinion, the head of revenue has an opinion.
The executive housekeeper. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
So how can we navigate through that? Because again, my huge bugbear for me personally is that I see hotels who have got phenomenal spaces, amazing spaces, but they're constantly losing revenue. They're repositioning. They're not listening to the people who they hired to make that job. So as you know, like for example, the executive chef, who really understands what they can do to drive it better. But in your opinion, what can hotels do to really listen to their key members?
Hire the right F&B director and let him lead.
That's it.
Yeah, give him space to make mistakes and room to succeed. You can't overrule his decisions. What's the point of hiring that person?
Right.
So this is an important piece, because there's lack of direction in the hotel business.
And also with I think there are around 150 5-star hotels just here in Dubai.
Yeah. And they keep telling me, oh, I'm amazed how independent restaurants do it. Well, independent restaurants are focused. They are not changing they're not repositioning every other day, and they're definitely not changing the menu every week when the revenue declines. In the hotel business, here is a fun, sad and funny cycle. So here's how it works. So they hire So revenue struggles. They say, okay, let's hire a new chef. So they fire the chef. They get a new chef. A new chef comes in. First thing he does, deletes the entire menu, launches a new menu. So all the loyal guests that we had, now none of their favorite items are on the menu. So revenue increases for about a couple of weeks. There's excitement, there's marketing. By the third, fourth week, revenue drops again. Then what do? Oh, change the menu again. They change the menu one more time. Then they change the menu, change direction. Then after 2 months, what do? They fire the chef again. Or they move him to another outlet. This is what happens. It's all about changing the menu. And every time you talk to a chef, their solution to declining revenue is changing the menu. It's actually the worst solution. I always tell them, less is more. Focus on few great dishes. Outperform the competition. Make menu items that will wow people. Not necessarily complex in terms of flavors, right? Do not change direction so much.
Wow, because also you're absolutely right. So if I take a key hotel here at the moment that's had a huge opening and it's been highly publicized, is the Atlantis the Royal. They have 7 key restaurants and they all have very specific key marketing. But what I do like about it is the fact that the hotel doesn't get involved. The chef is the chef, the menu is the menu, and that's it. We're not going to get involved in the politics of what's happening within the hotel. This is what we do, and that's it. Yeah. And it's worked extremely well.
Yeah, and every time you change the menu items, you put a huge pressure on the kitchen and huge pressure on front of the house. Now you got to retrain everybody on menu knowledge, right? You got to retrain everybody in the kitchen. And sometimes what I see, they overload certain equipment and underload the other.
Right.
So it becomes heavy on the fried items when they have 99.99% of the hotels have a super tiny frying vat for a menu that has 10 fried items. It's crazy.
It doesn't make, absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Marvin, the other one, which I think is huge, is as an industry, how can we attract better talent? Because the world is big, and there are huge amounts of restaurants everywhere, but it doesn't seem, something is not fitting. And what I mean by that is that we're not doing enough training, we're not getting the right people in. What are we doing wrong when it comes to hiring?
Yeah. First of all, in most restaurants, it's a stressful experience. First week is a stressful experience for everyone because we're very poor in the induction process. We bring people in and they're by the grill station the second day.
Yeah, that's wrong.
1. 2, we don't train enough. Clearly, we don't train enough. Back of the house, front of the house. This is the key word. This is the key, and a key item. We do not provide a career path. So what I would have done if I owned a chain of restaurants, I would say you join us as a food server, then you become a food server trainer, then you become a supervisor, then you become an assistant manager, then you become a manager, then you become an area manager. So I will show you a career path. And I'll increase your salary in line with inflation or with your performance. So we don't do that.
And why do you think that is?
As an industry?
Yes. Is it a time thing? Is it that because we're time poor?
For small operators, it's about labor cost, right? Or lack of knowledge. They're not even aware of this model that I just presented to you.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because
there's a great deal of lack of knowledge in our industry. Yeah. Massive. I'm telling you, I was talking to senior people in the industry, can't tell the difference between fast food and fast casual. So
and that's very scary.
Yeah.
When I'm hearing that, to be honest. And these are big people.
Yes, sir.
So then the other one, which for me is also key, and you talk about it a lot, and I completely agree, is how do we as operators get better at the human sustainability part? Because we know that hospitality, we sacrifice a lot of personal time, But what can we do as an industry, again, to attract the right people and sustain them?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Actually, when I was a restaurant manager, I struggled a lot. I had sleep problems because shifts were changing, right? Your
Right.
opening shift, night shift, and this creates health problems, blood pressure, heart problems. You know, so how do we come up with flexible hours? How do we work with our people to make sure they have healthy schedules? How do we And there are companies like, again, I'm going to mention my previous employer in Canada, White Spot, 90 years old company. Average tenure is 15 to 20 years with this company. Won 7 years in a row among the 50 best managed companies in Canada. The way they were always thinking about you and your family. They were always creating events for you and your family, giving you movie tickets, free food, days off here and there, acknowledging you. You come to the office on Chinese New Year, even though you're not
Wow.
Chinese, you'll find a card and chocolate. This is the culture. So this is really it depends on the organization, right?
I think that's amazing, though, really, because you're absolutely right. Is you want to feel part of something, and I think the one thing we are lacking is almost compassion and empathy with our
Yeah, I mean,
teams.
I was working with a group of restaurant, and they're very successful, but I was shocked. They all the time say us and them. I said, who us and them? Us, the owners and the employees. I said, no, you're one. It can't be you and them. So there is this, I don't know, this approach of this is my team, it's like my family, doesn't exist most of the time. But the ones like I was talking to Michelle from Pitfire Pizza and Faye from Mythos, and they're really like that. They love their people. Michelle at Pitfire Pizza, 7 or 8 employees tattooed the name of the brand on their arms.
Unbelievable. But how amazing.
Yeah, but that goes to show how nice, how kind she is. I asked Faye about consistency in a Greek restaurant, which is extremely hard to achieve. She said retention. I have great retention because she's super kind and caring, genuinely caring.
And the chef's been with her for a long time.
Yeah, and I know here some successful chefs whom, to be honest, they don't impress me because of the way they treat their people.
Did you tackle any of that during your time with IHG or any other operators?
No, because we were kind of franchisee. It was one restaurant was managed by us. He came like 3-4 times a year, and that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So then, again, if I'm an operator, what would be your sort of top 3 tips to get the best out of a team?
Oh, that's easy, actually. Motivate every single day. Acknowledge. Never put anybody on the spot. Never. In private, coach people in private when they make mistakes.
Okay.
Praise people in public.
So even if they've made a mistake,
In private.
In
yeah.
private.
Imagine you are a restaurant owner and we have a get together or a briefing, and you say, Marvin, yesterday your customers at table 40 complained on how slow you are, and you just started the shift.
okay.
You lost me for the rest of the shift.
Yes. I got you. So that's what we need to do more of.
Yeah, and I see this a lot, by the way, here in our region, unfortunately. Yeah, putting people on the spot and not understanding that people have feelings.
But I like what you said when we first started is about the coaching element, because it's very much that's what it is, isn't it? Is that
Yeah.
you're essentially coaching a team, like a sport.
You are a coach. You are on stage every single day as an owner, as a chef, as a leader.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
What are your sort of future predictions for the industry within the region?
We're going to continue to grow. At one point, we're going to hit saturation, and we are in certain categories saturated. And then it's going to be the survival of the best operators, because when you hit saturation,
And when you say,
only the strong and well-proven concepts will survive.
and you're talking about obviously great food, great service, great everything, actually.
Being obsessed with the details.
Yeah, that's what it is. You're right.
Or let me even simplify it: quality obsession.
I love that quality obsession.
Yeah.
You're right. You have to be obsessed with everything, to be honest.
Yeah.
So now, Marvin, we have come to the quick fire questions. I specifically designed these for you. So, first things first, are you a sweet or salty?
Sweet.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles with ice cream on top.
Fajita or shawarma?
No, fajita.
Applebee's or Chili's?
None of the above. I worked for both. None of the above. Look, molten chocolate cake at Chili's is a great product. The blondie at Applebee's is a great product from a dessert standpoint.
What are your top 3 tips for restaurants in general? If you were to give 1, 2, 3, what would be your top 3 tips?
Execute flawlessly day in and day out. Develop your people. Focus on quality. Quality before cost.
Beautiful. Currently, what are or who are your top 3 culinary heroes? And they don't necessarily need to be chefs.
No, I mean, there is one of them whom you interviewed on your show, Jason Atherton. Jason Atherton had a huge impact on how I look at menus and design menus and culinary innovation. Number one, his humble personality, his kindness. When we worked together at Intercontinental Marina, we had 28 dishes and we were super successful. So the lesson there, less is more. Give me 25 dishes that are amazing, better than 50 dishes that are average.
Yeah. 2 others?
Pierre Gagnier, whom I worked with.
Legend. Also.
And there are many others, actually. There are many other names, yeah. But I think we'll stick with those 2 for now.
From all of your time in the industry, what would you say has been your funniest ever kitchen or restaurant incident that you've ever seen or been involved in?
There are many, but there is one that will never escape my mind. So I was an assistant manager at Chili's, and I had an employee who was really very, very slow in everything he does. Fine, that's his personality. So one day I was preparing the staff schedule in the kitchen, in my office. Then someone comes knocking on the door. I said, yes, come in. So he waited like 2 minutes and he opened the door. He goes, Mr. Marvin, the kitchen was on fire. Can I take my break? I was like, what?
No.
So I jumped and went to the kitchen and the fryer was on fire. And then the staff, not knowing how to put off fire, they were using the wrong fire extinguisher for oil.
Oh my God.
So it was increasing more.
Yes.
So I told them, yeah, you can go on break. Then we called of course, the fire brigade and all that, put it off. But that was I will never forget that how this guy, where the kitchen is on fire, and he's like, Marvin, the kitchen's on fire.
Can I take a break? Oh my God! Wow, that's a first.
That's
a first. What? Just I'm trying to think of it. Just.
And one time this guy,
Same guy.
we had fajitas, and fajitas come on a really super hot skillet.
Yes.
450 Fahrenheit.
So they're like sizzling, right?
Yeah, 3 times. He's supposed to have like a kind of towel. 3 times he would catch the handle without a towel. And he'd come to my office. Marvin, do you have any cream? I burnt my hand.
Oh my God. He had an obsession with heat.
I don't
obviously.
know. I don't know.
What advice would you give for anyone wishing to have a career in this industry?
Front of the house? What department?
Absolutely. Front of house and hospitality.
Yes. Stay hungry for knowledge. If you're a food server, go and learn everything about the bar. Learn about management. Go to YouTube. Do whatever it takes to learn and develop yourself. If you're in back of the house, go and steal the recipes of the best chefs in the world and make them better than those chefs. There is no finish line for making any dish. If you make paella, say to yourself, I want to make the best paella on earth. If you're making croissant, I want to make the best croissant that was ever created. be hungry for knowledge, and you will get there. And position yourself in that way, and you will be the best restaurateur that existed.
Love that. What advice would you give to 16-year-old Marvin Alballi?
I wish I spent less and made more money and opened my own restaurants. Because I'm a spender and I didn't save my money. So I enjoyed life. Some people say that's great, but for me, I would have loved to have my own restaurant, and maybe it's going to happen one day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. So Marvin, I just want to a quick recap on the things that we've discussed, because it's been incredibly extensive. From your childhood food memories, which I love, to then the types of food you had growing up, education, foray into hospitality, the 3.5 years you did with it within education, then working across so many different sectors of the industry and learning so much, to then you coming across to the Middle East, learning about a massive brand and really having a huge role and impact within the industry itself. And then all of the nitty gritty we went into about the restaurants, the talent, sustainability. It's just been absolutely phenomenal. Now, if I wanted to get hold of the book and get hold of you through social media, how can I do that?
I'm on LinkedIn, and I blog often on LinkedIn. I have different articles. Marvin Alballi. Albali is spelled as Alballi. On Instagram, Restaurant Excellence Book. You can find the book on Amazon, but on my website we have a better deal, and I can provide you with a discount code for your own listeners.
Amazing. So what I'll do is I'll put all of that in the show notes as well.
Yeah,
so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Marvin, the only thing I wanted to say is the work that you have done and that you are doing is exceptional. Really, I have learned in the short space of time that we've been together a huge deal, and I'm sure the listeners and people watching would have done that. Really, I just wanted to say, please keep inspiring us. Please keep developing, keep writing the books, because you're really changing lives. So on behalf of the Chef JKP podcast, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do next.
Thank you. And thanks to you for leading the culinary scene in the UAE, for bringing so many chefs together, for supporting so many people, for leading with your heart, for being a chef who cares about people and their goals and their aspirations. I really appreciate you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.